Hello everyone and welcome back to Twig or This Week in Gaming. I am your host Josh, also known as MER Nightmare, and today we are covering all the gaming news that happened this week, the week of May 22nd. This week we had a PlayStation showcase showing off some big announcements for PlayStation fans. This week was really all about this event, so that's what we're going to be covering in today's video. Starting off, we were shown a game from Jade Raymond's Haven studio, Fair Games. From what we saw, it looks to be a competitive heist-style game where you will be fighting other players to see who can get the loot. There is currently no announced release date. Next up, we have Helldiver 2, a third-person co-op shooter. The game looks to be inspired by Starship Troopers from a heavily patriotic trailer for Super Earth, to the alien bugs you will be shooting on distant planets as you gather resources. This game is planned to release sometime later this year with no specific release date. Now from EA Originals, we have Immortals of Aveum. This sci-fi first-person magic shooter reminds us a lot of the old BioShock games, but instead of guns, we get magic with a lot of diversity and options. The game is scheduled to launch soon on July 20th. Next up is a sequel to a fantastic game, Ghost Runner. Ghost Runner 2 is just like the original, a first-person, extremely fast-paced action game centered on sword combat and motorcycle driving. The game looks just as fun as the first one did, and we cannot wait to get our hands on it when it launches later this year. Next on the agenda is a game with a Chinese art style and theme named Phantom Blade Zero. The game seems to be a fast-paced hack and slasher with what appears to be a guard break system. It really reminds us a lot of the PlayStation exclusive Ghost of Tsushima or other Souls-like games. We aren't entirely sure, however, as the reveal trailer seemed to show gameplay but with no HUD elements shown whatsoever, so we can't really be certain. There also appears to be a wall running mechanic along with a stealth system and multiple sword types. This game definitely seems like it could be a good one, and we will eagerly wait for a release date. Now for a new game from the makers of Journey, we have Sword of the Sea. This game seems to be a mix of exploration and skateboarding, but your skateboard is a sword. It looks cooler than it sounds, I promise. You will explore across beautiful landscapes while riding your sword and doing lots of tricks. However, there is currently no release date announced. Next up, we have a sequel game, Cat Quest: Pirates of the Caribbean. This cute cartoon aesthetic game looks too similar to the first game, which is an open-world RPG, but now with pirates. The trailer shows off swords, guns, magic, and pirate ships to fight your enemies and explore the world. The game is set to launch sometime next year. Now for a surprise reveal from Square Enix, Foam Stars. This Splatoon-like shooter replaces the ink from Splatoon with bubbles and has a very Persona mixed with Overwatch art style. The gameplay is very similar to Splatoon, so we'll just have to wait and see what more will come from the game to make it more unique and different when it launches. Next up is a childhood storybook turned into a game. The Plunky Squire is an adorable adventure game that takes place in a picture book that you can leave and explore a child's room to solve problems in the book. The game is expected to launch later this year. Tear Down is coming to PS5. This popular demolition and heist game will be coming to PS5 later this year, with the main selling point of the game featuring an amazing destruction system allowing you to remove any obstacle in your way with whatever creative methods you can come up with. There was no release date shown, but there was a giant PS5 crashing through the ceiling with the words "this year" being shown, so we expect to see more from this game soon with a release date. And now for one of the big announcements, this one being Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. We didn't get to see much from this reveal other than Snake's face, but it is enough to know that Konami is willing to remake a Metal Gear game without Kojima. We will have to wait and see how they handle getting voice cast back and new content potentially being added. There was no mention of a release date either, but along with this, they did announce a Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. This will include Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, Sons of the Liberty, and Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. This Master Collection is set to launch autumn of this year. With this being Volume 1, we're expecting to be getting a Volume 2, which hopefully will include Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5, but we will just have to wait and see. To follow that, we have Towers of Agazba. This game is an open-world survival game based in a fantasy world that looks pretty similar to The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, but with more realistic graphics and art style, and it also being a survival game. It even shows off the player using a glider, very similar to the one that Link uses. We are pretty excited to see more of this game as it develops and is set to launch sometime next year. A new trailer for Final Fantasy XVI was shown at the event, which showed us more of what we've already seen. Amazing graphics, gameplay, and a bit of story elements were shown, and are really getting us thrilled to see how this game will turn out when it releases soon on June 22nd. Next up, we were shown a long-awaited sequel to a fan-favorite game, Alan Wake 2. This horror action game will introduce a new playable character, Saga Anderson, who is joining Alan Wake to solve his investigation of what exactly the is going on and what his goddamn name is. I do find it rather funny that he doesn't know his name, being that the game's name is his name. Anyways, this game will launch on October 17th across all platforms. Assassin's Creed Mirage was shown at the event as well. We got to see some cinematics and a bit of gameplay. It looks like the game is taking us back to the original formula for the franchise, which seems to be a decision most fans are here for. We see a new hidden blade, classic stealth takedowns, sword combat, a day and night system, and of course, diving into hay. We are very curious to see how much they change with this game, and will keep you updated when it launches October 12th. Next up, we have Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, the newest game from Cygames. This RPG game looks very much like Tales of Arise from the combat system to the open world aspect. The main differences would be the art style and the character designs. If you want to know more about this project, you'll just have to wait until they show more. It is set to release sometime this winter. Ultros looks like it plays just like other Metroidvanias, with you exploring the world, slaying enemies and bosses, and finding or unlocking new ways to traverse the environment. The game is set to come out sometime next year, but hopefully we'll get more shown much earlier than that. Next, we got a new trailer from Dragon's Dogma 2. From what we saw, it looks like a better version of the first game, just with better graphics. The trailer also shows a giant dragon, crazy monsters, and climbing the monsters to stab them. We're excited to see more from this game, and if there are any changes that will be made to differentiate it from the first game as it gets closer to its release. Next up, we got a new game reveal from Bungie called Marathon. Marathon is the next entry in a game series that actually hasn't been touched since 1996. We weren't shown any gameplay, unfortunately, but it is good to know that that franchise isn't dead. All we know about Marathon is that it will be a PvP extraction shooter similar to Escape from Tarkov, where players do runs to acquire gear and make it to the extraction point with as much loot as they can get. Marathon will have cross-save and cross-play between Xbox Series X, S, PS5, and PC. And we hope to see more from this title as we get closer to a release. Before we get to the biggest announcement from this event, we have to talk about this Project Q thing. Project Q was shown as new hardware coming for PS5 users. It looks similar to a Nintendo Switch, Steam Deck, and other newer handheld gaming devices, but the difference being it looks like they cut a PS5 controller in half and slapped a screen in the middle of it. They did say that it won't natively play games and that you'd be streaming games from your PS5 to this device. We'll have to wait and see if it allows you to play games anywhere you have Wi-Fi or only if you're on the same Wi-Fi as your PS5. Along with this, they did show off PlayStation earbuds. They will be wireless earbuds with Bluetooth capabilities similar to AirPods, Raycons, and other wireless earbuds, but sporting a sleek PlayStation 5 aesthetic and charging case. And finally, we were shown a lengthy gameplay trailer for Spider-Man 2. If you aren't wanting any spoilers, we suggest you tune out now. Okay, here we go. This gameplay trailer starts off by showing us Kraven the Hunter looking for a new game to hunt and being shown a map of New York with villains and heroes alike spread throughout the big city. It then cuts straight to Peter Parker in the symbiote suit, showing off just how aggressive this suit makes Peter. We get to see a handful of new powers and attacks with incredible animations coming from the new suit. After this, we get a gameplay switch to Miles Morales, which shows an entirely different HUD and music. We're also shown new stealth gameplay as well as a new web mechanic, that being using your webs as a grappling line. You can shoot multiple webs that can connect to one another and walk across them. We are then switched to a fast-paced chase over the water, ending with the targets unfortunately getting away, and a rather interesting interaction between Miles and the early stages of a symbiote-corrupted Peter Parker. We are very excited to see more from the sequel and will be playing it when it releases later this autumn. And that will be it for this week in gaming. Please make sure to check out all of our other videos, subscribe for more content coming in the future of all things gaming, and I will see you next week for another episode of This Week in Gaming.